Happy Throwback Thursday, everyone. And Randy, today's edition is music from Desi Arnaz.
That's right. In honor of, most of you who have emailed us in the last 2 weeks know why we're playing Desi Arnaz music. And if you want to know why, you can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and find out the nickname for our district attorney, George Gascon.
All right. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a moment and pause and say thanks to everyone who's making the world run. Let's start with the men and women in the military, police officers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, lab technicians, hospital orderlies, small business owners, restaurateurs, truck drivers, everyone working at the grocery stores and fast food joints, the Port of Los Angeles and Union Station, the pilots and flight attendants. Instead of listening to the national anthem today, what we're going to do is we're going to play you a short clip from Desi Arnaz. I think he's on Toast of the Town, which was a popular television show in the 1950s, talking about what America means to him.
And you know something, though, that I really want to tell you tonight. What Tex O'Rourke said about my first job in this country was cleaning bird cages. It's very true. We came to this country and we didn't have a cent in our pockets. From cleaning canary cages to this night here in New York, it's a long ways. And I don't think there's any other country in the world that could give you that opportunity. I want to say thank you. Thank you, America. Thank you.
And a very happy Thursday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, The John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, this morning, Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation that guarantees a $20 an hour minimum wage for fast food workers. And when he signed that legislation, he brought out his favorite African proverb to set the stage.
I look around this room and I'm reminded of that old African proverb says, you want to move fast, move alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go together.
And here's Gavin 3 weeks ago.
And I mean, it's the old adage. There's an old African proverb. You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
And here's Gavin 3 months ago.
We're all, as I said, better off, and we're all better off. You want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, we need to go together.
And here's Gavin 6 months ago.
I think there's an old African proverb, some of you heard, said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Wouldn't it be great if there is no proverb and he just made it up?
That would be very Joe Biden of him.
He's a lion, dog-faced pony soldier.
Which is not a movie.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, last night was the big Republican debate at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley. Randy, I told you and the audience yesterday that I was scheduled to be on CNN after the debate to provide commentary on what happened on stage. However, I didn't end up making it, and they didn't cancel on me.
What happened?
Okay, here's how smart I am. Last night, after the debate, I decided I would go to bed because I wake up very early in the morning, and 1 o'clock in the morning is just something that's deep into the middle of the night for me. So if I went to bed at my normal time, which is 8, 9 o'clock, somewhere in that neighborhood, and then set my alarm for midnight, I will wake up at midnight, I will take a shower, I will read through the news, I'll do my head, and then I'll go back to bed. However, there's one problem. Apparently, when your phone auto-updates in the middle of the night, it happens exactly at 12 midnight.
Oh, no.
Which means if your alarm is supposed to go off at 12 midnight, your phone is turned off and the alarm doesn't go off, and people trying to call you or text message you can't get their messages through, and you are sound asleep, counting sheep, sawing logs all the way until the morning.
You slept through your CNN hit?
I slept all the way through it. I have never missed a flight. I have never missed an engagement. I have never missed a radio show. I always show up on time. If I say I'm going to be someplace, I'm going to be there. And last night, I screwed CNN.
And then we went to sleep.
So there you have it. So the Republicans went at one another on stage. I should say Republicans sans Donald Trump, who did not participate in this debate, as he did not participate in the first one. And apparently he will not be participating in the third one, which is something you can do if you're 50 or 60 points ahead. That being said, it was a debate among the also-rans. And then you had an extra added element of Gavin Newsom injecting himself into all the drama as the chief spokesman for the Biden-Harris re-election team.
And that ended up being the bigger story than the debate itself, was Gavin giving all these interviews in the spin room.
And this is exactly what Gavin wants to do. Gavin is an insatiable media whore. So if he has the opportunity to go on the cable news networks or the actual networks or speak to the people who write for the papers, man, the most dangerous place you could be last night in Simi Valley was in between Gavin Newsom and a camera.
He was all over the place. He did Fox 11. He did MSNBC. He did CNN. He did Fox News. He did little newspapers. He was talking to everybody in there. He was the big star attraction.
He was on every channel except Bravo. And that's only because Andy Cohen wasn't there. All right. Which one do you want to start with, Randy?
Well, let's start with our local guy, Alex Michelson, who sat down with Gavin Newsom to ask Gavin Newsom about his upcoming debate with Ron DeSantis. Because Gavin gets extra bitchy here, and I'm all for it.
This week we learned that it's going to happen, a debate between you and Ron DeSantis, November 30th, Fox News Channel, Sean Hannity in Georgia without a crowd, just the two of you. Why are you doing that, and what is your strategy?
Well, I don't know if that's the right question. Why is he doing it is the right question. He's running, I think, I'm not sure after tonight, but currently he's running for President of the United States.
Someone's doing a little needling.
And you think he's still going to be? You think he'll still be a candidate on November 30th?
That's an open-ended question. Part of me wonders if, the fact that he took this debate, the fact that he took the bait in relation to this debate, shows that he's completely unqualified to be president of the United States.
He is so catty.
That's my humble first.
Why is that? You're baiting him with the debate offer?
Of course. I mean, why is he debating a guy who's not even running for president when he's running for president? He's showing up at the Reagan Library, hallowed ground, and he puts out an ad today, not for his presidential campaign, to promote a debate against the governor of California? I mean, this guy's distracted. So I don't know that he has it in his heart. I think, here's my personal opinion about Ron DeSantis, he regrets running for president.
I agree with Gavin on that.
Yes, of course he regrets running for president. He's 50 points behind.
He regrets running for president. He made a huge mistake. He listened to his consultants. He bought his own hype. He had this little God complex. I mean, look at the ads themselves. Literally, God created. I mean, he bought into all this stuff.
Okay, stop the tape. What you see going on here is what we call projection. Gavin Newsom, who's not, quote unquote, running for president, is spending his money on ads in the state of Florida. And he's spending his money on ads in the state of Texas and billboards in other states. Why would a governor who's not running for any political office spend money on ads in states where no one can vote for him?
And he quickly regretted it, but he's stuck. And here's the problem. He got one chance at first impression. He's belly flopped. He's down 30-plus points from where he started. So it's a terrible situation for him.
So bitchy.
Now let's move on to Gavin talking with Rachel Maddow, who came in on a Not Monday to ask Gavin about one of the big sticking points in the Republican debate, California's crime crisis.
Now, what do you think she charged him to show up on a non-Monday? Her deal's worth what, $30 million to only work on Mondays?
She has the best contract in all of broadcast. It's ridiculous. She works one day a week and she does a podcast, and she's the highest paid person in cable news at this point.
How much do you think the rest of them at MSNBC hate her? Because, everyone's going through budget cuts right now, and people are getting laid off in the news business. Imagine being laid off over at MSNBC knowing that she makes $30 million to only work on Mondays.
Oh, I know exactly what that feels like. I was working for Clear Channel when they gave Ryan Seacrest a $30 million contract extension, and they fired 3,000 people that day. Thanks, KFI.
But the other thing that all the candidates were trying to do tonight was cast aspersions specifically on California, name-checking cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, describing them as unlivable because of crime and that being a problem that the Democratic Party and President Biden and governors like yourself should have to answer for. So let me give you a chance to respond to that as well.
Well, it's a hell of a thing. I mean, Jacksonville and Miami have substantially higher murder rates than L.A. and San Francisco. Jacksonville, Florida, and Miami, Florida have higher murder rates.
Wait, does alligator attacks count as murder?
You notice he mentioned Los Angeles and San Francisco, and the town of Oakland never crossed his lips.
No, because Oakland's out of control right now.
Jacksonville, Florida, and Miami, Florida have higher murder rates than New York City. 8 out of the top 10 states in America, 8 out of the top 10 murder states are all red states. I don't know why they didn't bring that up. Why haven't they brought up property crime rates and violent crime rates in Tennessee and Arkansas, in South Carolina? They omitted all of that. It's the same old...
I don't know what he's talking about. I live here, and I can tell you that crime is something that's on your mind all the time. And it's not because the news has scared us. It's because we have either been the victim of a crime or one of our friends or someone in our social circle has been the victim of a crime. When I travel around the country, when I'm in Florida, when I'm in Texas, when I'm in Nevada or Arizona or fill in the blank, I'm not looking over my shoulder like I am here. When I told people I was going to Oakland to watch the Angels play the A's at the beginning of the season, people looked at me like I was on drugs.
That was for the crime and for going all the way up there to see the A's.
They omitted all of that. It's the same old stale rhetoric, and their narrative doesn't fit the facts. We have to confront that more forcefully. That's an issue I'm very mindful of.
There we go.
Gavin got a Gavin.
We also have to confront the fundamental issues around retail theft and crime generally. All of us have to own that. But the spin is just that. And I think it's really important that the facts are brought to light and life. And we have a responsibility to do that as Democrats, not just in terms of responding to their assault, but I think a more proactive education, including, by the way, we're the most energy independent we've ever been in our history. Mike Pence may want to look that up as well.
Do you think Democrats in California love him, or do you think they just vote for him because he's the Democrat who's on the ballot for governor?
I mean, he does get very high approval ratings, and he won re-election with over, 60% compared to the bumpkin from Butte?
But with Obama, Democrats really liked him, you could tell. With Bill Clinton, Democrats really liked him. At the state level, Jerry Brown. People in California, Democrats in California, have great affection for Jerry Brown.
Well, people love their grandparents.
I don't think Democrats in California are particularly in love with Gavin Newsom. I just think he's the guy who's on the ballot, who's a Democrat. They're Democrats, so they vote for him. But they would just as soon drop him for someone else if given the opportunity.
That's true. You want to go to Gavin with Dana Bash talking about the border?
Let's hear it.
One of the big points of discussion.
And yes, there's a reason I'm doing all these before the painful Hannity interview. Hannity is awful.
One of the big points of discussion was immigration. Vivek Ramaswamy talked about wanting to militarize the border and no birthright citizenship. Nikki Haley.
Wasn't he born because of birthright citizenship?
I think you might be right.
Nikki Haley talking about defunding sanctuary cities and states like yours. And it went on and on. Let's just first take those point by point. I'm just curious about the birthright citizenship. The point that he made, and others on the stage made, that if you're a diplomat, your kids are not American citizens. So why should an illegal, undocumented...
Oh, Dana, you almost said a word you shouldn't say on CNN.
So why should an illegal, undocumented immigrant?
Yeah, I just I completely disagree with him. We have a different point of view. This is a golden oldie. This comes up in Republican debates over and over and over again. Nothing's going to happen in this space. I remember Trump talking about mass deportations. He wasn't able to achieve that in 4 years as president. They're doubling down on that, including Vivek, who talked about removing family units. These guys are not just talking about militarizing the border. They're talking about invading one of our critical trading partners and allies in Mexico by launching attacks and strikes. I mean,
Is that what we're going to do?
They're talking about the cartels.
I mean, that's a hell of a thing. You care about energy imbalance and prices. Consider the amount of energy we import from places like Mexico. So this is serious stuff. You got DeSantis talking about ready, fire, aim, shooting people with backpacks. Even though 89% of the fentanyl and those that are convicted of fentanyl are American citizens.
Did Gavin's cocaine just kick in?
I think so, because what DeSantis was talking about was the cartels, criminal enterprises. The same way that you would go after Al-Qaeda or some terrorist organization, he said we should treat the cartels as if they were like Al-Qaeda.
Even though 89% of the fentanyl and those that are convicted of fentanyl are Americans.
What just happened there?
He's like a computer. You know, every once in a while you try to do something on the computer and you get the spinning pinwheel?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Gavin Newsom's doing right now.
Fentanyl and those that are convicted of fentanyl are American citizens. And
that was pointed out tonight.
That was Shapiro level of speed.
Fentanyl and those that are convicted of fentanyl are American citizens.
Wait, did you speed that up or is that him naturally?
That's him naturally. I did not speed that up.
He had to have done a lot of cocaine in his younger years.
Oh, yeah.
He went to AA to try to kick the alcohol habit. I wonder if they treated him for the cocaine addiction, too.
Well, maybe it's just not a problem for him. There are plenty of San Francisco business people that like to party on a Saturday night, but they're good and ready to go back to work Monday morning.
I need to talk to someone who was there last night to find out how many times he went to the bathroom during that debate.
Even though 89% of the fentanyl and those that are convicted of fentanyl are American citizens, and the
and
vast
that was
majority,
pointed out tonight.
Yes, coming through our border crossings, including San Ysidro right here, where I put the National Guard helping support Border Patrol. And, of course, all that the backdrop, not one of them said anything about the fact they want to defund the Border Patrol. They want to defund the military. And we're going to walk off another cliff as it relates to a government shutdown. And that's their party, and that wasn't even brought up tonight.
So Gavin's tough on the border?
He is a border governor. He's been down to that border so many times.
He had lunch on the border, which is the excuse he gave for going to the bathroom 15 times during that debate.
Now, the questions about the border are not over. Later on in the show, we'll hear Dana Bash ask Gavin Newsom if the border's a real problem and why the Biden administration is ignoring it.
And coming up in moments, we're going to check in with our pal Larry Elder, who is a candidate for president. He was not on stage last night, but he has a lot to say as to what happened in Simi Valley and Gavin Newsom's performance afterwards in the spin room. Larry Elder coming up at 12:35. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to listen to the podcast version of this show, there's a new handy-dandy app that'll let you do it easily.
That's right. It's never been easier to listen live to KABC on the stream or to download podcasts of this show. We've got a brand new app. It's new and improved, the new KABC app. You can search in the Apple App Store or the Android Store for KABC AM. It's incredibly easy to go straight to our podcast of this show to listen live wherever you are throughout the country and around the world. So you can download every episode of this show. It's at your fingertips. It even works with Apple CarPlay and Android CarPlay. So you have so many different ways now to have the easiest access possible, not only to KABC Live, but to podcasts of The John Phillips Show. So please check out and download the new KABC app.
California Hours coming up after the news at 1. But right now, we are pleased to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. You can find him online at LarryElder.com and follow him on Twitter at Larry Elder. The sage from South Central, Larry Elder. Larry, welcome.
John, thank you for having me. Always nice to follow Desi Arnaz. Lucy! man.
Do you remember the episode? Randy and I were talking about this yesterday, where Lucy was doing something she shouldn't be doing, and Ricky had to chase her around the apartment. He finally catches up with her. He puts her over his knee, and he plays Babalu on her ass.
No, I don't remember that one. And now I can't unremember it. Thank you for that image.
All right, Larry. So last night was the big debate. The RNC is screwing these things up just right and left, among other things, not putting you on stage and some of the other candidates as well. You watched the debate. What was your takeaway?
Well, they also allowed Gavin Newsom in the spin room and would not allow me in the spin room. This is a guy, of course, who a lot of people think is going to become the next president candidate. He's not. I think you and I talked about this before. They're stuck with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris got her job in part because she's a female, in part because she's black. You live by the gender and race card. You die by the gender and race card. If she is swapped out for some white dude like Gavin Newsom, the black females, who are the most loyal part of the Democratic base, will be livid. They won't be so livid they'll vote Republican. They'll be so livid they won't vote at all, thereby guaranteeing that whoever it is we nominate will get will win. And that's why I wrote the book about Gavin Newsom and the California Democrats called As Goes California, My Mission to Rescue the Golden State and Save the Nation. As for the debate, as I said the first time, John, the real winner, once again, was Donald Trump by not showing up. It's just politics 101. When you have a commanding lead, you don't show up for the debates. All you are is going to be a target. He was. However, notice that nobody brought up the indictments. Nobody did. There were a few minor policy criticisms of Donald Trump, but nobody brought up the indictments. Nobody has any real policy criticism of Donald Trump. So what's the argument? If you're not going to argue that Donald Trump was an election denier who undermined the foundations of our republic, and you're not going to go there because the base does not believe it, I don't believe it, what's your argument? Your argument is you're more palatable to Donald Trump. He's more popular now than almost ever. He's got a double-digit lead over Joe Biden in national polls. And in the swing states, he's also leading him. So what's the argument? That's the problem.
When I get emails from listeners who are Republicans or conservative-leaning independents, however you want to describe them, I not once have ever gotten an email where they're upset with Donald Trump's politics. If they're kicking tires on other candidates, it's usually because of one of two reasons. Either they don't think he's electable or his personality they find to be obnoxious.
Right.
The electability argument is really, the window on that one is closing fast because not only is he far ahead of everyone else he's running against in the Republican primary, but he was ahead of Joe Biden by 10 points in the ABC News Washington Post poll that dropped over the weekend. It's hard to say that the guy that's ahead by 10 points is unelectable. So I guess that leaves you with his personality.
Well, that's right. That's why I mentioned he's now ahead in the national polls. I mean, look at what Joe Biden's numbers are on the economy and on the borders. I mean, he's way underwater on the economy, way underwater on the borders. Now, for the very first time, I watch a lot of CNN and MSNBC, as I always say, so you don't have to. And now they're covering the borders. Bill Maloogian on Fox News would have these amazing, stunning, jaw-dropping images of people coming over the border, 10,000 a day as opposed to maybe between 500 and 700 a day under the Obama administration when Jay Johnson said, anytime the border crossings are over 500, I'm having a bad day. We're talking about 10,000 a day. Now CNN and even MSNBC are beginning to cover the border. So what's the argument? You have a whole bunch of independents now who all of a sudden have reassessed the presidency of Donald Trump, and so far now they're saying maybe he wasn't that bad.
What do you make of the Biden decision to have Gavin Newsom be their surrogate after the debate last night?
It shows you how desperate they are. It shows you how much they don't believe that Kamala Harris can handle herself in a situation like that. You know, Gavin Newsom goes on Hannity's show and holds his own. And Hannity, that by the way, then gets him to agree to debate Ron DeSantis. Where was Hannity? Where was Fox News when I wanted to debate Gavin Newsom during the recall election, John, when it mattered? When we're talking about crime and homelessness and people leaving the state for the first time, and the way this man shut down the state in a more severe way than did anybody else. Kids lost 2 years of learning. About a third of all restaurants in California now gone forever, many of them owned by the black and brown mom and pop people that the people on the left purport to care about. Where was the pressure on Gavin Newsom to debate me during that time? But he goes on Fox News and he says, "Why don't you debate Ron DeSantis?" And he says, "Okay." It's very, very disturbing to me.
You know, Larry, the last time you were on, when I announced that I would be supporting you for president, I said if the Republican nominee for president doesn't understand the failures of California, they don't understand where the nation is going, and they won't know how to fix it. Last night, with Gavin Newsom as the chief surrogate for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the Democrats are putting California up on a pedestal as to what the nation should look like. They don't think they've screwed it up here. They think California is operating like a Swiss clock. It seems, given the news cycle that we see on a daily basis here, whether it's crime, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the high cost of living, inflation, fill in the blank, whatever issue you want to pick one, California is failing spectacularly, and it's not a big secret. People around the nation, when I travel around the nation and people find out I'm from California, they start peppering me with questions about those subjects. It seems like a catastrophic error on the part of the Democrats to put California up as the model as to what they want the rest of the country to look like.
And Gavin Newsom as their spokesman. This is a guy who just signed the legislation that sets up a board to determine the wages of fast food workers. This is a guy who signed the legislation that set up the panel for reparations. Even Californians, by a 2-to-1 margin, don't support cash reparations. This is a guy who appointed all these soft-on-crime DAs, supported these soft-on-crime propositions like 47 and 57 that reduces the severity of penalties for assaulting a police officer. It is now a non-violent offense. Rape of an intoxicated victim is now a non-violent offense. And Gavin Newsom supported those propositions. This is a guy who's banning gasoline-powered cars by 2035. Of course, he's bragged that California is a sanctuary state. So he has not made any criticism at all about any of the Joe Biden policies on his war against oil and gas, on inflation, on open borders. So what is the Gavin Newsom case that Democrats are making that would suggest that he would be somebody that we ought to be using to defend Joe Biden? He's the only public official that I know of who enthusiastically supported and approved of the way Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. So this is the best that they can come up with?
Okay, Larry, I'm going to ask you to put on your Johnny Carson turban and look into the future for me.
Okay.
Is Joe Biden going to be on the ballot as the Democratic nominee in November of 2024?
If Joe Biden can fog up a mirror, he will be the nominee. If he cannot fog up a mirror, it will be Kamala Harris for the reasons that I mentioned. The first primary for the Democrats, South Carolina, 60% of the Democrat primary voters are black. Most of those are black female, and they love Kamala Harris. There was a poll in the LA Times putting her approval at 70% among black voters. Now, the poll was not broken down by gender, but I assure you black females like her even more than black men do. They are stuck with her.
I'll tell you this. I always believe in politics. Be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. The Democrats rigged their primary by changing up the calendar. No longer does Iowa and New Hampshire and Nevada go first. They made it so that it's now South Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, so that no one would be able to beat Joe Biden. Well, now that they're having second thoughts about Joe Biden and they're thinking about potentially replacing him as the Democratic nominee, too bad, so sad, because you have a calendar where this guy can't be beaten.
Well, that's right. And let's remember, Kamala Harris wants to be president. She ran for and got elected DA of San Francisco. She ran for and got elected Attorney General here in California. She ran for and got elected U.S. Senator. She did not win when she ran for president, but she dropped out before the first primary. But her name was on the ballot, obviously, in 2020. So every time her name has been on the ballot, she has won. She does not think of herself as a loser. She does not think of herself as an airhead. So you also have to deal with Joe Biden, who still wants to run again. So we've got two major problems. They're called Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Larry, I've got an idea I want to throw out there because during the first debate, when you were not invited to be on stage, Tucker Carlson ran an interview up against the Republican debate with former President Donald Trump, and that went everywhere. Millions and millions of people watched that interview. Last night, when the Republicans were debating, Tucker Carlson did a one-on-one interview with Bill O'Reilly. I don't know how many people watched it. I assume millions of people watched it. During the third debate, I suggest that Tucker Carlson should have you on and interview you at the same time the debate is going on. If Ronna McDaniel won't let you on stage with the other candidates, then fine. Do an interview with Tucker Carlson up against her debate and get more eyeballs than she generates.
I accept. Make sure that Tucker Carlson extends the invitation, and I accept. By the way, I recently interviewed just yesterday with Bill O'Reilly on Bill O'Reilly's podcast. I should have brought that up.
Absolutely. Larry Elder, the sage from South Central, candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. You can get him online at LarryElder.com and follow him on Twitter at Larry Elder. Larry, thanks so much for stopping by.
John, always a pleasure. Appreciate it. God bless.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And, Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
John writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, responding to Gavin Newsom claiming that we're more energy independent than ever. Newsom is smoking his own hair gel. Gas is $6 a gallon statewide. We're independent of energy only because we cannot afford to purchase it.
I filled my car up with gas today, and I don't drive a big truck. I drive a crossover vehicle. I drive a Ford Edge. It cost me $121 to fill it up.
Yikes.
$121. Gavin Newsom is insane. Coming up after the news at 1, it's the Fix California Hour, and today we're going to be joined by California Congressman Tom McClintock. And, Randy, you mentioned it before this hour, but I've started playing around with it, and you aren't lying. This new KABC app is crackerjack.
It's fantastic. It's the easiest way ever, not only to listen live and not have to deal with the annoying app that is iHeartRadio, but it's the greatest way to download the podcast of the show. Works on Apple CarPlay and the Android Car function. The KABC app, search in the Apple App Store or the Android App Store for KABC AM or 790 KABC and download it, and you can listen to us wherever you are and whenever you are, because there's podcasts.
All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. We're live and local, and this is Talk Radio 790 KABC.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you. Oh.